Good afternoon, everyone. It's Robin Carter with Robin's Creations to share one of my last card sets for the bird class coming tomorrow for my ones that can attend. So this is the only one I haven't gone over yet that's might be helpful to see ahead of time what to expect. So let's get started. So you will have an envelope and a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock that's cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then you'll cut your white stamping cardstock to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So to start with this design, I'm going to do the one that's just free as a bird for today. The other one is done just like it, just using different stamp sets from the Friendly Hello. So I'm going to set this one aside and show you this. So I'm going to create kind of a wreath design here, and the way we're going to do that is with I believe this is a 2.5 inch circle, just cut out of scrap cardstock. Yep, it's 2.5, and as you can see, this one I used before, so I'll probably just continue to use it. It doesn't matter, it's just going to mask off the wreath portion. So you can decide where you're going to put your wreath. I did it up here because I plan on putting some ribbon. And so let's get our stamps out and get started. My little goodie bag. So we need the leaf. And again, I already have a little piece of label to help it make it easy to get off the block so it won't cling too tight. And we need this flower. Same thing. If I find one and it sticks to it, I just leave it on there and stick it back in the case. That way I don't have to find one every time. The little flower. And the bud. Let me get my teeny tiny block for it. Okay, and if you only have one block, you can take these off and use one and then switch to the other. Okay, so I think that is all. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the colors I'm going to be using, I'm going to set the stamp set aside. It's going to be basic gray for the bud. I'm going to use Blushing Bride for the flower, the small flower, Calypso Coral for the bigger flower, and Old Olive for the leaf. So here's how you get started. I just ink up the leaf, holding that in place. And if it moves a little bit, you're okay. But if you feel better taping it down, that'll work. And I kind of did the leaf going in a circle. So just going by kind of where I put it before. I don't like that, but that's okay. That's going to get covered up by the stem that we put on here. All right. Get my hand out of the way. Well, that wasn't very many. Okay, so that's our leaf. So I'm going to close this one up. We're going to start with the bigger flower. I'm going to put it right up against this. This time I'm going to press a little harder, that way I get all the way into the card. So that's good with these being red rubber. You can press, and your height of this mask won't stop you from being able to stamp. Okay, let's go with that for now. Do Blushing Bride with my small flower. Okay, I'm going to add some pressure this time so that I get a solid image. let's see, one here. Let's do one here. And that looks pretty good. Then I'm going to do basic gray. I'll put this here. I may come back in with another little flower on the other side of that. And maybe one peeking out here. Okay, let me do another little flower right there. To cover it up. Okay, so there's our wreath design. And on my red rubber stamps, I like to use my Stampin' Scrub. And this is the old design. They've redesigned it since then. So I do like to take a piece of scrap paper. Surely I have some around here. It's a small grid sheet, and just take off as much ink as possible. That way I don't have to clean my Stampin' Scrub as often. Just kind of remove the excess ink. Okay, and then, and as I said, I do like to use the Stampin' Mist on my red rubber stamps. It not only cleans them, but helps condition them. And I've found you can squirt it solid once or twice, and then also just put some water on it. I think some people may dilute theirs, but that's the way I do it. Okay, so you have a wash side and a dry side. The newer one has like a little wet drops up here to show wet, and a little sunshine here to show dry. But I had the old one handy, so that's what I used. Okay, so now we're going to need the bird. And I've already pre-cut the bird and the flowers that I'm going to add to this just to save time on the video. And you could add any number of the elements from this. But I'm also going to add the bow punch. Let me go grab it. This punch was new in the 2022 mini catalog from Stampin' Up, and I want just this big leaf. So what I did ahead of time was cut some cardstock somewhere on my desk here. It's funny how things disappear. Give me just a second. Okay, I found it. So what I usually do is just measure, I've already punched one out here, measure how wide that is. And this was a scrap I had in my cardstock, so I thought it was fine. So then you just put it in there where you can see all cardstock around and punch. So we didn't actually get that other little punch in there, which is what I wanted. So like I said, I'm going to cover up the stem, so I know that's going to go there. And then the bird, so let's color the bird. Let me get back out my small grid sheet, because when you use your blends, it will soak through to the back, and you don't want it to mess up your tabletop. So again, this is a blends marker, and as I showed last time, a new discovery for me was this thin line shows the bullet tip, and this line shows the brush tip. So I'm going to make this like a robin bird again. My name's Robin, I tend to prefer robin birds. So I'm going to very gently use the brush tip and just kind of make a dark line there along the stamped part. And then I'm taking the light these are the light and dark Calypso corals, and just very lightly color the bottom. And then I'm going to take crumb cake. And this is the dark crumb cake. And I like how you can go back over and it doesn't show your lines. And I'm okay with some white spots, not necessarily around his eye, to show highlights. So I'm not going to do two-tone there. I think that looks good in the Stampin' image. And then I had to look it up, but I did find out that the beak of a robin bird is yellow. So I'm going to get my marker. Just getting my Stampin' Right marker for this one. I think it'll be okay. Now the writing tip is so fine that I do have to use the brush tip. So we'll just color that in by tapping that way. And then if you want to give some grounding to the feet, I did go in very lightly touch and in the dark to give it some grounding there. Okay, so find my wreath here, and I may turn it a little more this way. And I'm going to put my bird on with dimensionals. But first I want to color my flowers. And I may do some different colored flowers this time, just to see how it looks like. I do think I want my big one in Calypso Coral. So I'm going to start with the bullet tip and just go around the center and around these darker marks. Oh, I hope I'm on camera. I often forget to check that. And then gently put your cap back on. I hope my audio is better. I noticed last time the little sounds on my desk show up really loud, so I gotta figure out how to make that not happen. Okay, and then I'm going to take my marker, again my Stampin' Right marker, and just go in with these yellow stems. Okay, so I know I'm going to want him about there. And you could stamp that right on there and not have to worry about fussy cutting that one. So what color do we want these? I think we need to stick with the color palette. So maybe a pink. There's not a blushing bride, but there is a flirty flamingo. So let me see if I can put my hands on the dark. Flirty flamingo would be a nice color to add in there too. Okay, so I found the dark, and I'm going to use the bullet tip since these flowers are so small, and just kind of go put some dark in there. You could do, these are so small, you could do them one color. Not worry about the shading. Okay. I wish they had a blend in every color. Especially garden green. I wish we had that one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put some dimensionals on the back of my bird. Here's some remainder that I have. Let's get my scissors and snip off some. One up there. One down there. Maybe a teeny tiny one on his feet. So they're not just floating. Whoops. I didn't get the backing off that side when I cut it off. I guess I need to get my take your pick tool out. I have that, and I tend to just use it on the embellishments. Okay, so we have our flower there, and I'm going to get my Tombow multi-purpose glue in the fancy holder that I've put into this fine tip bottle. And let's, oop, it's coming out right away. That's good. Just a few drops on the petals. And let's cover up where that branch came off. Didn't stamp really well. And then let's take off the bird. Let's see. I'm going to put him, whoops, about here. And then I'm going to tuck, I'm going to let this flower show more to cover up this white area. Let me tuck it just a little bit there. And then the little flowers. It's kind of up to you, whoops, to wipe that glue off. That's where I'll put my label, so it won't matter. And let's put one on dimensionals about his same height. I have one little scrap left of that. Just kind of making a little bunch there. You know what, I'm going to stop with 3, so that's going to be an extra. I don't think I want to put one there this time. Okay, quit guessing with that. And then for your label, so I just did a happy anniversary, and I did that using the Label Me Fancy punch. And again, it has this dot and slit that you could add, and I already pre-cut I think you need 1 1/4. This was 1 1/8. It's a really tight fit, but it does work. So I just have to hold that over. That was very, very tight fit, but it worked. Okay, and then I'm going to put the label here. Now, if you wanted it to stick out a little more, you could take a sponge stopper. You can grab one. I've started working on one for every color. Let's see if this is, that's petal pink. We look for, okay, I don't have a Calypso coral yet, so we will make one. And I'm gonna get out my Calypso coral. Just put a little bit of ink on it, a light touch, and go around and add a little edging color around my label. That way it'll stick out more on the card. See, like that? I like that. Okay, I'll have to put a label on that one. Set those aside. Now, another thing you can do to dress up your labels, if you wanted to, is I'm gonna get out the leaf stamp, and I'm gonna do a faint leaf on my label. So I'm gonna ink it up. I'm gonna stamp off once and put it over here on my scrap paper, and I'm gonna stamp again, just with a light touch. Okay, and let's see how that looks with a sentiment. Let me close up these. Oh, I hope that's not loud on the camera. I'm going to try to be mindful of doing that away from the mic. So let's get out the Free as a Bird stamp set some more. And I really like this, The World Needs More of You. That's a cute saying. I have another block, and I tend to do it sideways. Don't know why, just my preference. I kind of don't follow the block then. We're going to see if this is if I can line this up straight on the grid paper. That was pretty good. So now I'm going to try to do the same thing in the center. Oops. Okay, so how do you like that? Just a little leaf. You could maybe even stamp off the leaf again to get the third generation, which would be very light. Let me see if it's still on there. Huff on it. Yeah, that would be even more light. So this leaf here was first generation, this darker one. This was second, and this one right here, I don't even know if it's going to show up on the camera very well, is the third. So if you wanted it lighter, you could do that. All right, so my scrubby should still be clean. And I'm gonna clean off my leaf. Make sure I've got all the excess ink from my sentiment. I'll just go ahead and put this one on here. I'm happy with it. But I need more dimensionals if I'm gonna put it on dimensionals. Now let's do this one flat, just for variety. And if I have a rubber eraser that'll get that ink off, I think this thing's gonna last me my whole life, plus some. As we laugh and say we're going to put that in our will to somebody. Stampin' Up! Used to sell that, and they no longer carry it, so you can just find it online or at your local craft store. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put it more where that leaf was, and then you can add rhinestones, or this one I did black. And let's add it to our Calypso coral base. And then before we add it to a card base, we're going to add the ribbon. And I'm going to show the ribbon tying technique. We'll see how well it goes on camera. Okay, that looks pretty centered. So I'm just going to press to flatten the glue. Okay, so I'm going to use this bottle. I'm going to take out my little gems, which help weigh it down, and I'm going to get some ribbon. So I have this retired ribbon in Pear Pizzazz, but I see that it works quite well with Old Olive. So here's what we do. You don't cut it off the spool. That's one way it helps save on the ribbon. And then you want to tie your knot and bow. And I like doing this because, one, I can squeeze hard and not worry about squeezing my cardstock. I think I need a little more tail than that. Okay, now we're going to see how this goes on camera. Usually it takes me a couple times. So we're going to wrap that around, then we're going to pull gently and keep our middle. Now I can tell you, if you know you're going to mail this, then don't squeeze so tight, and your bow will flatten better in the mail and not cause a big bump. Even that's not too bad. So you want to fussy with your bow on the spool before you cut. So I like that. So I'm going to cut my tail to match. Okay, now I gotta take that off. You can slip it off your bottle, and then you decide, okay, do I want my bow more on the left hand side or the right? Is that showing up? Maybe I need to bring this just a little closer. Probably should have done that to start with. I want it about there, so I'm going to cut here, and then I can just, that created a lot of extra ribbon. I like to use Scotch tape here. I probably could have done more in the center. add some Scotch tape here. Just put that on there. And then put this on here. And so you saved one couple of inches, but you never cut it off the spool, so that helps save. And then you were able to fussy with your ribbon there. So I like that. So I'll put this in the bucket for class tomorrow. And I'm wondering if the Stampin' scrub, that would probably be too small. You can kind of measure it by rolling. That's just a little small. So we'll find something a little thicker and less thick. If you want to stabilize your ribbon, you can get a glue dot. And I have an old spool here. I will get my take your pick tool and find the last glue dot. There's one. All right, and I'm just going to stick it under this bigger part right here, press it to it, and then that helps stabilize the bow and nothing will get caught under it, and pull it off. So I hope you enjoyed this card. I just need to add it to a white card base and add some gemstones, and it's all done. But you would do the same thing with, if you're making one with the friendly hello bird. This does include the two flowers here, fussy cut, and then the bird itself. And I did use some different colors. I added some yellow in there. That probably would have been pretty here as well. So you'll do the same technique on these. And this one I put a sentiment down here because the bird filled up. Oops, I forgot I zoomed in the camera. Because the bird filled in more of this, so I put the sentiment down here. So you may want to raise up your wreath just a little bit more to give a little room. I think it's okay. So I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow, and if you missed any of the cards, check out my channel and view the others. The only one I haven't done a video on is this one, which is pretty straightforward. We're using the Dragonfly Garden. And this is Mossy Meadow. And this is a Retired Memories and More card base. And I really like the envelope, was cute too, that came with it. And then I also did not go over, here's the stack of cards. Let me just bring those over real quick. So these two were the Fun Fold in the Friendly Hello. This was the Fun Fold with the Free as a Bird. And yeah, they're in little cellophane bags, so they're kind of shiny. So this one I didn't go over. It's basically the only hard thing is coloring and adding the little flowers there. So it was the same technique as this, so I didn't do a video on it. And then this card, which I don't have a sentiment on there yet, but I'll add that as I decide what it needs to be mailed out for. So these are our bird cards that we'll be making. Thanks for joining me. If you are subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. If you are not a subscriber, I'd really appreciate you hitting the subscription button. And also, everyone, please like and share and hit the little bell below for notifications of when I have a new video. Thanks for joining me today. Till next time. Bye-bye.